The night pressed heavy against the plains, the wind carrying grit and the faint smell of rain. Inside the barn, Jonah Carver sat slumped against a hay bale, his hat tipped low, trying to forget the ache in his bones. He hadn't slept right in years, not since his boy was taken by fever. That's when it came. A whisper, sharp, desperate. "Stop! Don't look!" Jonah's eyes snapped open. The voice wasn't his memory. It was here, in his barn. He jerked his head toward the shadows where the lantern light barely reached. There, crouched between the feed sacks, was a figure, a woman. Her dress was torn, dirt smeared across her face, strands of hair clinging to sweat. She pressed both hands against something bundled at her chest, eyes wide with terror. Jonah's first thought was outlaw trouble. His second was worse. Indian raids. Out here, anyone could drag danger behind them. "What in God's name?" His voice cracked. She shook her head violently, lips trembling. "Don't look. Please." Her words came out ragged, almost broken. He squinted, trying to make sense of the bundle she shielded. A baby? Wounded animal? Gun? Her whole body coiled as if his gaze alone might destroy whatever she hid. Jonah rose slowly, dust brushing from his coat. The barn creaked as the wind pushed against the boards, a storm beginning to swell. He hadn't asked for this. He hadn't asked for anyone. His ranch lived on silence, his way of surviving after loss. But now, silence was broken. The woman's chest heaved. "If you see it, you'll send me back. You'll kill us both." Jonah's jaw worked. He hadn't seen a soul in weeks, hadn't wanted to. But now the world was at his feet, bleeding, begging. His hand twitched toward the lantern, toward light, toward answers. The horses shifted uneasily in their stalls, picking up some scent in her fear. Jonah took a step closer, boots crunching on dry straw. Her eyes shone with wild warning. The bundle shifted. Something inside moved. Jonah's breath caught. From outside, faint at first, came another sound. Distant hoofbeats, slow, deliberate, headed his way. He froze. She froze. The storm outside wasn't just thunder. Someone was coming. The hoofbeats grew louder, rhythm steady as a war drum. Jonah's stomach tightened. Out here, men didn't ride at night unless they carried intent. Bad intent. He looked back at the woman, her lips parted, whispering a prayer, eyes begging him, though no words came. The bundle trembled in her arms, alive. Jonah's throat went dry. "Who's out there?" She shook her head fiercely, clutching the bundle tighter. "If you open that door, we're both dead." Every instinct screamed to shove her out, let her problem pass with the night. He'd built this ranch on solitude, not on saving strays. Still, the way her fingers gripped that bundle, knuckles white as bone, pulled at something buried deep. The hoofbeats slowed. Someone was circling the house. Jonah snatched the lantern down, snuffing its flame with his palm. Darkness swallowed the barn. The horses huffed and shifted nervously. Then came the voice. "Carver!" It was guttural, loud enough to rattle the rafters. "You seen a woman come through here?" Jonah's jaw flexed. He knew that voice. Elias Boon, a man whose cruelty was legend along the border towns. Boon ran with a band of men who called themselves peacekeepers, but left more graves than justice in their wake. Jonah stayed silent. "Carver!" Another shout, closer now. "Don't make us come in and search!" The woman whimpered softly. Jonah cut his eyes to her. She pressed her hand over the bundle, pressing it against her heart, shaking her head no. Tears shone in her dirt-streaked face. Jonah's pulse thundered. If he lied, Boone would burn him out. If he told the truth, he'd hand her to wolves. The crunch of boots and gravel outside the barn door. A shadow slipped under the crack at the threshold. Jonah's hand drifted down to his Colt at his hip. He hadn't drawn it in years. His fingers hovered, trembling. The barn door rattled. "Last chance, Carver. She's a thief. Took something that don't belong. You hand her over now, maybe we leave your spread standing." The woman's whisper cut through the dark. "Please, it isn't theirs. It never was." Jonah's mind tore in two. His land, or his soul. Outside, another rider called out, "We're lighting torches if you don't answer." The scrape of flint cracked against steel. Sparks flared in the night. "Jonah Carver!" Boone's voice cut through the storm, louder now. "Step aside or watch your barn burn." Jonah's gut twisted. The barn was his livelihood. Horses, tools, grain. But inside it now stood something else, trembling in the dark. The woman, the bundle, her fear like a living thing. A hiss of torch flame crackled outside. Through the wall slats, orange light bled into the shadows. Jonah moved fast. He pressed a finger to his lips, signaling the woman to stay silent. Then he slipped toward the barn door, careful on the straw. His Colt hung heavy in his hand. Boone's boots crunched outside. He lifted the torch high, shadows jur. King wilded across the yard. Behind him, 3 other riders waited on horseback, rifles glinting. "You know what she is," Boone growled, voice like gravel. "A killer's brat. Don't matter if she looks innocent. Blood don't lie." Jonah froze at that. Killer's brat? His eyes flicked back toward the woman. She was clutching the bundle tighter than ever, rocking it gently, whispering something low, protective. Boone slammed his torch against the barn door, fire licking dry wood. The horses screamed inside, stamping in panic. Jonah flung the door open just enough to step out. Colt aimed square at Boone. "You put that fire out," he said, voice steady though his chest thundered. Boone grinned, teeth yellow in the torchlight. "So, you did see her?" The other riders shifted, rifles coming up. Tension cracked like lightning in the air. Jonah's thumb eased the hammer back. "Take one more step, Elias, and you'll meet the dirt right here." For a long second, no one moved. The torch flame hissed in the rain-swelled air. Then Boone lowered it, smothering it against the mud. He chuckled, mean and low. "Didn't think you still had sand in your belly, Carver." He leaned closer, voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "But you can't hide her. We'll be back with more men. Lawmen, too. You'll hang for harboring filth." He mounted his horse, gave a sharp whistle. The others wheeled their steeds, hooves pounding as they thundered off into the dark. Jonah stood there, gun in hand, rain beginning to spit from the black sky. The sound of hoofbeats faded, but only for now. Behind him, in the barn's hush, the woman's voice trembled. "You shouldn't have done that. They won't stop." Jonah turned, staring at her, at the bundle she cradled. He caught a glimpse as the cloth slipped, tiny fingers, pale, curling. A child. The rain began to patter against the roof, soft at first, then steady, like 1,000 small drums. Inside the barn, the storm's hush seemed almost sacred. Jonah's breath slowed as he looked at the child, its tiny fist clenching in sleep. The woman quickly drew the cloth back over, shielding it. Her eyes were wild again, not with fear of Jonah, but with fear of losing what she held. Jonah holstered his Colt, the sound of leather creaking loud in the quiet. "That's what Boone's after," he said softly. She shook her head. "Not what? Who?" Her voice cracked. She sank to her knees in the straw, cradling the bundle as if her arms alone could guard against the world. "They killed his father. They'll take him too, unless—" She swallowed hard, tears shining. "Unless someone helps." Jonah crouched down, his knees popping with age. He hadn't knelt like that since his own boy's fever nights, when he had prayed to deaf heavens for mercy that never came. His gaze softened despite himself. "What's his name?" he asked quietly. She hesitated, as though saying it aloud might curse the child. "Daniel?" The name hit Jonah like a hammer, his own son's name, the one he buried under an oak hill 3 winters ago. His throat closed, words stuck behind it. Daniel stirred in her arms, fussing. The woman tried to calm him, but exhaustion weighed heavy on her hands. Jonah reached instinctively, hesitating only a second before offering his finger. The child's tiny grip closed around it, warm, alive. Something broke in Jonah then. A wall he'd built after grief, after years of silence, after convincing himself the world had nothing left worth touching. The woman watched, eyes wet, voice hushed. "He doesn't cry when you hold him." Jonah stayed there, letting the child's fist cling to him, feeling the heartbeat of something fragile and unasked for. The storm rattled the roof, but inside the barn, time slowed. Finally, Jonah looked at her, his voice low. "Boone's right about one thing. They won't stop. But he's wrong about blood. A child don't carry sin in his veins." Her lips trembled, a flicker of hope fighting through despair. Before she could answer, the distant echo of dogs broke the moment. Bayings carried sharp on the storm wind. Closer. Hunting. Jonah stood slowly, eyes narrowing. They have already started tracking. The dogs' cries grew sharper, cutting through the storm, a chorus of hunger and rage. Jonah's barn felt smaller with every sound, as though the walls were tightening around them. The woman clutched her child close, panic rising. "We can't outrun hounds." Jonah's jaw worked. He knew she was right. He also knew Boone wasn't bluffing. Men like him didn't stop until every scrap of power was ground into the dirt. Jonah crossed to a wooden chest near the tack wall. From beneath an old canvas, he pulled free a long, oiled rifle he hadn't touched in years. He checked the chamber, movement steady, practiced. "You're not going to outrun them," he said, "but I've got a way to end this." Her voice broke. "No, they'll kill you." Jonah shook his head, eyes distant. "I've been dead a long time, miss. Tonight maybe I get to choose what for." He glanced down at the boy, Daniel, sleeping now in the storm's lull. That name carved something raw inside him. His son's face flashed in memory. Fever-slick skin, lips whispering. For water Jonah couldn't bring fast enough. He hadn't saved his own. Maybe this was the only redemption the Lord ever meant to hand him. He looked back at her. "When they ride in, you take the back trail. Creek'll wash your tracks. Follow it north till you hit the cottonwoods. Keep that boy quiet. Don't stop till dawn." Her tears ran freely now. "Why would you do this for us?" Jonah rested a hand on the rifle, steady as stone. "Because blood don't decide who deserves to live, and because no child should leave this earth before his time." The dogs were near enough now that their snarls rattled the night. Hooves thundered behind them, Boon and his men coming fast. Jonah swung the barn doors wide and stepped into the rain. Lightning slashed the horizon, silhouetting him in stark white. Boone's torchlight bobbed through the dark, a small army behind him. "There he is," Boone bellowed. "He's hiding her inside." Jonah raised the rifle to his shoulder, the barrel gleaming wet. "You boys picked the wrong ranch," he said, voice low but carrying. Behind him, unseen, the woman slipped through the back of the barn, clutching her child, vanishing into the storm. The first shot cracked through the night. Boone's men scattered, returning fire, torches falling, and hissing out in the mud. Jonah stood firm, every blast of his rifle a barrier, a final stand carved from grief and grit. When dawn finally broke, smoke hung low over the ranch. The barn was gone, charred and smoldering. Jonah's body lay in the mud, rifle still in hand, eyes closed as if finally at rest. Far to the north, in the cottonwoods, a woman carried a child, whispering his name against the morning light. The last frame holds on Jonah's rifle in the mud, rainwater washing across the barrel, glinting once before the screen cuts to black.